Here to help separate fact from fiction, cheap shot from fair game, MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan, radio talk show host Bill Press, and Washington Post politics reporter Perry Bacon. All right, first up, the Clinton camp still taking fire today over Senator Clinton's false claims of taking fire during her trip to Bosnia. But now it seems Clinton may have actually misstated another fact while explaining her first misstatement.
We were, very much told by the Secret Service and the military that we were going into a war zone and that we had to be conscious of that. I was the first lady taken into a war zone since Eleanor Roosevelt.
No, you weren't. It turns out she wasn't the first lady taken into a war zone since World War II. That honor goes to Richard Nixon's wife, Pat Nixon. Here's the report from NBC Nightly News from July 30th, '69.
For her part, Pat Nixon became the first American first lady to visit a war zone since Eleanor Roosevelt toured the Pacific Theater at the end of World War II.
Now, look, this in and of itself is not that big a deal. I said I thought the media's overblown the Bosnia gaffe. But I don't get how Team Clinton, which is always so careful about what they say, could have blown it on so many fronts here, Bill Press.
Yeah, look, Pat Nixon, kudos to Pat Nixon. She was the first one. Dan, I think they blundered on everything about Bosnia, but I think the damage has already been done with the sniper fire, and all the stuff about Pat Nixon doesn't really make it any worse. It just underscores it to be as bad as it is.
But Pat, I don't understand. I mean, we always hear again and again that nothing that comes out of Hillary or Bill Clinton's mouth is a mistake, that everything is done on purpose, that they're so careful. And yet, these things back to back just says that something's awry in the Clinton camp, no?
Well, there's something, Hillary made the mistake herself. Her recollections were completely wrong. She's got a bit of a credibility problem and a terrible distraction problem. But I can understand the Eleanor Roosevelt reference, even though it was mistaken, because our own Andrea Mitchell says she wrote the same thing. Yeah. And Wolfson on Morning Joe, he read me clip after clip after clip where reporters were saying that Mrs. Clinton was the first one into a war zone since Eleanor Roosevelt, so she took it from the press.
Well, how about this then, all right? Well, how about this? I'm going to give Clinton a strike on this one, giving her the first one of the night, but it's hard to believe she made another dubious claim in need of fact-checking related to that trip to Bosnia as well.
I was the first, high-profile American to go into Bosnia after the Dayton Peace Accords were signed.
I feel like we're piling on here, but that's a misstatement, too. It's flat out wrong. The Dayton Peace Accord signed on December 14, 95. January 3rd, 96, the Defense Secretary Perry traveled to Bosnia. 10 days later, President Clinton visited troops stationed there. 2 months after that, Hillary Clinton made her trip. The President and Defense Secretary probably qualify as high-profile Americans to travel there before she did. Look, Perry, this is minor stuff, but it does make me ask, is there something going on in the Clinton camp? These sorts of mistakes, it seems to me, one after the other, and the press bashing them for them again and again, it seems to me that they would do something to to stem the tide.
I think they are trying to, get beyond this story and try to explain it, and they've sort of stopped talking about it. But her statements are surprising because, like you said, they generally are careful. I've noticed, that she's been criticized some for overstating her role in a children's health insurance program that was passed under the president, which Ted Kennedy's taking credit for as well. And she sort of changed her language slightly on that and sort of been more, accurate to some extent. So I'm surprised that she's made these mistakes, and I don't necessarily think it's a staff thing. I just think it's just her memory. She's saying these things, they can't control them.
But Bill, these are not the, look, Bill, look, you're the political insider. Bill, you've been following this stuff for years. Are these the sorts of mistakes that Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton in his day would have made day in and day out?
No, I think it's very un-Clinton-like, and my suggestion is, Dan, that they ought to stop talking about Bosnia. Well, because it just gets, Clinton himself says, when you're in a hole, stop digging, right?
Well, and Pat, look,
her problem, Dan, is this. I'll tell you, we've caught one, we've caught the S-chip thing, you got the Bosnia thing, you got the peace agreement in Northern Ireland. Now reporters are going to be looking for this. They're going to look over everything she says.
We look over it all
she's
the time.
going to make mistakes. Yeah, but she's going to make mistakes, and they're going to. And now she's got a bit of a credibility problem. It's the Al Gore. We invented the internet.
All right. Well,
and
look,
then after
it's
that,
beyond,
everything he said was questioned.
It's beyond a credibility problem because the NBC Wall Street Journal poll that just came out tonight shows that there's an impact, and I'm not saying it's specifically from Bosnia, but she has, first of all, Clinton versus Obama. Head-to-head, she has gone down a little bit since March 7th to 10th to now, which is March 24th to 25th. Clinton was up 47 to 43. It's now tied, Obama and Clinton. You look at Clinton versus McCain, and again, Clinton has lost some ground lately. Before it was Clinton 47 to 45. Now McCain 46 to 44. And yet when you look at Obama versus McCain, it's basically stayed the same. I mean, you know, Perry, this is what it's all about. I mean, when you start looking at the numbers and you say to yourself, and both their negatives are now going way up as well, you say to yourself, something's got to be done.
Dan, I think the bigger problem for her in the numbers is not about Bosnia. It's about Barack Obama had arguably the worst period of his campaign during the time we're talking about because of the controversy about his minister. The fact that he didn't lose any points or she didn't gain any points against him is another. I mean, she's trying to prove that she's more electable, she's the more viable candidate against John McCain to convince the superdelegates to pick her as opposed to Obama. That's a larger problem. If she hasn't gained any points, this controversy sort of takes it on her instead of on Senator Obama at a time where she had him on the defensive about his pastor to some extent.
All right, Clinton gets another strike here, giving us 2 strikes for Clinton, none for Obama. Next up, Michelle Obama, now taking heat for this comment made while campaigning for her husband in January.
We don't like being pushed outside of our comfort zones. You know it right here on this campus. Some folks are sitting at different tables, y'all living in different dorms. I was there. You're not talking to each other. Taking advantage of the fact that you're in this diverse community. Because sometimes it's easier to hold on to your own stereotypes and misconceptions that makes you feel justified in your ignorance. That's America.
Blunder. Well, it did not just happen. It's just been picked up, and now in particular, the substance of what she said, you know, may be true, but this just gives more fodder to Obama's detractors, Pat, to say the Obamas aren't patriotic enough.
Well, that's right. She shouldn't have said, that's America. I mean, it is very natural for students. They do it. I did it as a student. We all got together at the table in the cafeteria with the guys from Northwest Washington, even though we were from a citywide school. People do that naturally when they're free. They tend to associate with their own. That is natural. But she made it a knock on her country, and she repeats this sort of thing, and that's getting to be a real problem. The idea is that, you know, that they're not patriotic, they don't really love the place, and right fits right into that.
Bill?
Yeah, no, I got to tell you, I agree with Pat on this one. Look, I cut Michelle Obama a lot of slack because she's new to this and she hasn't been through it like the Clintons have. She's going to make some mistakes. But it's the "that's America" that's stuck in my craw, because I remember, you know, my grandmother, who doesn't like blacks, is a typical white American, and Michelle Obama said, "I've never really been proud of my country before." Look, I know they love the country, but I hear negative tone about America that I don't share, and I hear it too often.
Perry, I mean, is this going to become a big political liability?
I think it's a tough thing for them because one thing people like about Michelle Obama is she tends to be more candid and open and sort of talks like a regular person, I think, if you go to her events or what people say about her. But there's a couple times where she said things that I don't think it's an unpatriotic problem. I think it's more of just like a thing people don't like hearing, even if there might be some kernel of truth to parts of what she said.
Yeah, I mean, Pat, because I mean, let me ask you this, Pat.
America's fault?
Pat, are they going to create negative ads about Michelle Obama?
I think they're going to put together ads with Reverend Wright, you know, the GD America, her statement, taking off the flag pin, a lot of these things, and they got every reason to do so. I don't know why she's got to say that's America. There's no doubt a lot of us are, you know, maybe we're parochial or insular, or a lot of us as people.
Well, the reason,
but that's not
Pat,
the fault of this great country.
Because not everyone talks like not everyone talks like a politician all the time. The problem is when you're a politician's wife.
But
you've got to be really careful.
That's the problem.
Go ahead, Bill.
But she's speaking from the heart, Dan. That's the problem.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, she's very active in this his campaign. She's out there all the time. She's not just, accompanying him to events. She's doing her whole events. She's speaking a lot. And I think she is going to be, or if he's the nominee, she is going to be a target as well as Barack Obama.
Perry, you were shaking your head when Pat was talking.
No, I understood what he was saying. I'm sure there's some effort to make her, speak more carefully in these kind of issues.
All right, we're giving Obama a strike on this one, giving us 2 strikes against Clinton, 1 against Obama.